Hey YouTube, hope you're all keeping well out there. This is my first top 10 video. I've been wanting to do top 10s for my system collections for quite a while. Now, the impetus to start with a GameCube came from Time Warp James. He put up a top 10 games for the Cube video probably 2 weeks ago, and I believe that was a VR response to someone. So I'll leave James's video down in the description below. Please go and check that out. This is my top 10. And I've got a couple of honourable mentions. Now, with the Cube, I thought, right, this should be pretty straightforward. And then when I actually come to looking at my collection, there was a few that I thought, I can't just leave those out of the top 10 without being mentioned. So I've got 3 honourable mentions. Now, these are just my top 10. I haven't played every single GameCube game, so this is probably subject to change as I work my way through some of the other games I own now since becoming a collector. So, with the first honourable mention, I was always a Nintendo chap, so I had the Super Nintendo, then I jumped onto the Nintendo 64, and then as soon as I knew the PS2, the Xbox and the Cube were coming out, I felt very much still with Nintendo, so I always knew I was going to get that system. But I think there was 2 or 3 games at launch. I know there was Luigis Mansion, but this one was the game that really blew me away. Just seeing the still images in magazines, because that's what we had then, and very early 56k modem internet, so I'd watch these very low resolution trailers for some of the games and things. But yeah, this looks spectacular, and even to this day it has aged so well. You know, kudos to Factor 5 for producing this. They really know how to push the technology, and it was definitely a system seller, this one. Fantastic. I did get through it, I believe, way back when, but I do need to play this one again and go through it. They did come up with a follow-up to this one, and it wasn't quite as good, and that was Rebel Strike. I think they sort of bit off a bit more than they could chew, and they couldn't quite polish a lot of the mechanics where the player was running around as opposed to flying a ship. The next honourable mention is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Now, I know this came out on multiple systems, but again, just having the Cube, this was, again, almost groundbreaking at the time as well. The platforming and action back then, what it's like now, I've played it for such a long time, was, you know, the controls and the movement, the animation was lovely and fluid, and even in the original Prince of Persia games, the animation was always top notch in those. So yeah, this was a fantastic game, and they are doing a remake, aren't they, of that one? I've seen some trailer of it, and I don't think I like the style of it, but we'll see. And this is the black sheep of the Mario universe game catalogue, and I really like it. I know it gets a little bit of flack. They did try something different with this one, and everyone, I guess, was just crying out for a follow-up to the N64 Mario game. But I really enjoyed this, and some of the levels in here I enjoyed the most were the ones that you could see they probably took and then put into the Wii Mario Galaxy game, where you're just on like these little floating platforms. You're not so much in the land itself. It's just, they're really abstract, and they're very reminiscent of the early retro Mario games, but in a 3D sense, and those were great. And I liked the water pack. I thought it was okay. You know, it wasn't amazing, but again, I really enjoyed this game. Have to mention that one. Right, so we're going to jump onto the top 10 proper. I've kind of put them in a rough top 10 order, but God, I could lose sleep doing that, so I didn't spend too much time doing it. I'm going to start with a game that has only come out on the GameCube, and it was Eternal Darkness. What a game that was. And again, a lot of these games, I know Nintendo's always regarded as cutesy poo and for kids, but a lot of these are pretty adult, so yeah, there's a little bit of hedge up there. But Eternal Darkness was groundbreaking. It had all these mechanics that where you had the sanity meter, and you know, the TV would switch off, the volume would go down, and yeah, it used to do some really bizarre things to mess with the gamer's mind. I can't really remember too much about the story, but I remember you go through different time zones and you're a female that you turn up to your father's house, I believe, and is he into the occult, or he finds something and she has to find out what happened to him, and then she sort of, it tells the tale of this journey through different time sections. And yeah, very interesting, dark mechanics, you know, very macabre, and yeah, thoroughly good game and extremely unique. It's Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, I'm not the biggest Smash Bros. Fan, but back when the Gamecube came out, we were in our bachelor pad, me and, what was it, 4 other lads in this house sharing. And this was when I would bring the Gamecube downstairs into the front room. All the lads, we all buy beers on a Friday night and we all blitz this, unlocking all the different characters and all the different stages and the other unlockables. And we all had a whale of a time. I had to include this. In my heart, Melee is still the best one. I haven't really given enough time to the Wii U version, and I know Ultimate on the Switch is supposed to be the nuts, and it, you know, I haven't played that one yet, so I am looking forward to that one. But I prefer Melee to Brawl. Who was my favourite character back in the day? I really like Pikachu. He was really good with the lightning. But yeah, we used to unlock all the characters, have loads of beers, and just play this game and just have tons of fun. Really, really, really good game. Next is a fighter, and I loved the original on the Dreamcast. It was better than the arcade. And when I knew the second one was coming out for the Gamecube, I was so excited. And this again came out on the Xbox, the PlayStation 2 and the Gamecube, and that was Soul Calibur 2. Now, you had a character as well that was also unlockable, I think. I don't think you could play them from the bat. You had to do something like in the story mode and maybe unlock them. I can't remember. But for the Xbox you had Spawn, wasn't it? And Heihachi from Tekken for the PlayStation 2. But obviously the GameCube version was the best because you got to play Link, and he sort of worked really well with the weapon-based system that the Soul Caliburs are renowned for. Really good game. Again, like the first one, super tight controls. Love the movesets. It's probably one of my, if not my favourite fighter, I think, Soul Calibur. Bold statement, I know, but the later ones maybe not as good. But I just have so many good memories of playing these. And it was my favourite fighter in this one. I think it was Kilik with a big long staff, the stick. Brilliant. Next, we're going to jump onto a Nintendo first party release, and it got a bit of flack with the graphical style, this one, but I still really liked it, and that's Zelda Wind Waker. I've got the limited edition here, which includes, is it some of the other games? Yeah, Master Quest mode Zelda, what have we got here? Ocarina of Time. Yes, it's like a double disc edition, this one. But anyway, I wasn't too fazed with the graphical style of this one, and I know in an interview Shigsy said he wanted to have the facial expressions on Link to tell the gamer about something. So when the character Link would walk around the screen, you would notice his eyes would go down and look at certain things, and that would be a visual cue for you, the gamer, to maybe take heed of what he's looking at and things like that. And where maybe if the game was super realistic and the eyes weren't as big, you wouldn't get to see that. But yeah, I really enjoyed the style of it. The sea aspects, I know that got a bit of flack because it was a bit tedious. Again, I didn't really mind it. I used to just sort of chug on my beer or whatever it was back then and just go for a sail looking for treasure, rupees and quarters of heart. So there's that one. Next is a Capcom game, and when I saw the screenshots for this in a magazine, I just thought, looks all right, but I can't remember where it was. I think I saw a demo of it being played, or they had the kiosk set up in game or something like that with this game playing, and it was Beautiful Joe. You really have to see this in motion to really appreciate it. It's got a glorious animation, beautiful animation, and it had like a manga anime style aesthetic. And the special moves in this, you would be able to slow down time to dodge bullets and enemy attacks and things like that. You could zoom in, and yeah, it's just basically a left to right pseudo 3D 2.5D action platform. And in the special moves, you just got never got tired. You never got tired of pulling those moves off. It was great. I remember at the time, some Australian friends come over, and one of them, Dallas, was a huge gamer, and I showed him this game when we had a few drinks, and he just fell in love with it. He couldn't believe it. So I think later on it did get a PS2 release, and then he picked up because he was a PS2 owner. But yeah, I've just got nothing but good memories about that game. Really loved it. The second one's really good as well. At number 5 here, I've got another Zelda game, and that must mean it's Twilight Princess. Now, was it in 2005, I sold up shop, sold everything off, packed stuff up, and I went travelling to Australia and parts of Asia for a year. So I missed out on this one. I actually played this game on the Wii when I returned, and the Wii console came out. But again, I don't think it's drastically different. Just, I think they mirrored the world, didn't they? So Zelda, Link could have his sword in the right hand. But in this one, Nintendo went for a much darker tone. Whether or not that was in backlash or because of the hell that took place with gamers saying they didn't like the Wind Waker graphical style, I don't know. I don't think so. I think Nintendo do, they do their own thing. Really enjoyed this game. Had a much more adult tone, as well as visually looking much more realistic and adult, and it did have much more of a feeling of Ocarina of Time about it, with the villages and things like that. But yeah, really good game. Link could turn into a wolf. I don't really remember too much about it. I must play this game again. I haven't played it since the Wii version, and I've got it on the Wii U, so that's probably where I'm going to check it out. And you had that little character, what's she called? Midna, wasn't it? Who would ride around on Link as a wolf. And yeah, just got to play this one again. I remember it being quite a lengthy game, and just as I usually do with my Zelda games, I really try to get all the hearts by the time I go in for the last battle with Ganon. But yeah, fantastic game, that one. Now at number 4, I've got the only racing game in my top 10. It's not Mario Kart Double Dash, it's FZero GX. Now for me, this is my favourite F-Zero, closely followed by the Super Nintendo version. But in this, they put it out to Sega Nintendo to help with the game, and the speed in this, F-Zero is always renowned for its speed. In the N64 version, they had to really scale back on the graphics to keep the frame rate up and get 60 frames per second from that, which is still awesome. And that is the unique selling point, I think, of F-Zero, the sense of speed and the craziness of the tracks. And in this, you have a much better graphical fidelity than the N64 version, obviously being newer generation tech. The courses in this were absolutely bonkers. They included a decent sort of story mode in it, but it's got quite a steep learning curve. You won't get good at the game from the bat. You need to really invest a bit of time memorizing the tracks in this one to get your speed up to maximum. But the controls in this are super sweet and tight, allowing you to do those ridiculous right angles and almost like U-turns on some of the courses. The music is very F-Zero. It's not quite for me, that sort of thrashy metal, electric metal sort of sound, but it's very F-Zero, and I'm fine with that. Brilliant game. Brilliant. Right then, a top 3. And at number 3 is Resident Evil, or the remake of Resident Evil 1. I didn't play the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation, but I did play a demo of it in Virgin Megastore back in the day. I played Resident Evil 2 on my friend's PlayStation when we went away to university in '99, and I was just blown away with that game. Later on, obviously, this was being touted in magazines and on the IGN and things like that. And I just remember seeing some of the screenshots and being just blown away with the extra graphical fidelity of these games. And I thought, right, I've definitely got to play this, because I always wanted to go back to the first one, but never had the chance until now. And I was so pleased Nintendo, I think they had a deal, didn't they, with Capcom at some point. And this was an exclusive to the system. I know since it's been remade for the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4, and I've got all the variations of that. But fantastic game. They didn't really do too much to the controls. I think they did a little bit, didn't they? A little bit of tweaking. You had a quick turn button press that I think you could do, but that was about it. Again, they are what they are, the tank controls. I didn't really mind them like that. You sort of fight with them a little bit, but you get to grips with them. That's just the nature of the game with the static backgrounds, and I think it worked all right. I'd never really had too much of an issue with it. Brilliant game. Just loved it. Just absolutely loved it. The way to remake and repolish any classic game. Right, the top two. This was close. These are both bloody awesome. Right, number two, I've gone for Metroid Prime. I never played the original Metroids back in the day because I had a Sega Master System. I think I might have played maybe one of them around my friend Mark's, but nothing really stands out. So I missed all of those, but I always liked the look of them. They look really sort of atmospheric, and even on the Super Nintendo at that stage, and not being a collector, I hadn't played it, but I really liked the look of the game in the magazines that I saw. So this was my first outing, if you will, into the Metroid kind of universe. So I had nothing to sort of compare it to as such. So I didn't realise that some of the audio themes were the same, and some of the mechanics were the same. I'd only discovered that since becoming a collector, since playing this. But anyway, I absolutely loved this game. The sense of immersion was second to none. The exploration, the isolation, the atmosphere was just so good, and you would just feel completely isolated in the game. And the graphics and the sound were excellent. I love Samus's gun. I love the fact that the very brave decision that Retro made of having this as a first-person perspective, sort of action shooter, platformer, adventure game. And I know obviously maybe a lot of people were a bit nervous about that, but it was unfounded. They really knocked it out of the park with this. And the little graphical flourishes they had, which added to the sense of immersion, where obviously you're looking through Samus's visor, you would have like an explosion go off, and then for a nanosecond you would see her eyes reflected in the visor looking out. And when you go in water and come out, the water dripping down, it added these little touches that made this game just, almost 10 out of 10 standard game. But I loved this. I couldn't put it down. Straight home from work all the time and straight up to the bedroom playing this. Finished it. The last boss was bloody difficult though, and I really do want to go back to playing this one again. I might well play it on the Wii, but we'll see. I might go back to the GameCube version. Thoroughly loved this. I love the idea of scanning everything and getting the DNA data on all the baddies and finding doors, and it was always great to unlock your new abilities that would grant you access to new parts of the levels that you couldn't get through to before. Your super jumps, spider ball. Brilliant game, classic, and I can't wait to see what they do retro on the Switch. Not that I own a Switch, but you never know, that might push me over the edge to get one. Right, and my favourite game for the system came out just before I left England to go and travel Australia and parts of Asia for a year. And thankfully I got to play this just before I left. I had to send my GameCube, and that is Resident Evil 4. There was nothing like this at the time, and I felt it was groundbreaking, this game. Going back to it now, it's lost that sort of appeal a little bit, but it's still in probably my top 10 games of all time. I might even do that list at some point if I'm brave enough. But after playing the Resident Evil here on the Cube and just seeing the power of the system and what it could do for the atmosphere of these survival horror games, I was really intrigued to play this one. And I know they went in a brave direction, and I know there's probably a good following of Resident Evil purists that see this as a kind of too much of a break to the formula. I get that. The over-the-shoulder camera view and that control mechanism of shooting your gun down at different body parts on your enemies, and getting the vital headshots with your shotgun, just added that little sense of immersion and realism that the series needed. The controls were definitely changed and tweaked for this. Arguably they're still not perfect. You still had that quick turn, and then you had your QTEs, which I didn't think were so bad, where you get into this little motion of running away from a huge boulder, for example, and you'd be slamming the A button down just to sort of run away, and then at the last minute press another button to dodge out of the way. But the size and the scope of this game, the huge alligator fight, and then you had the El Gigante that was this huge ogre-y creature. The first time you face off against that thing, you were like, Jesus Christ, look at this thing. Brilliant. And then you had that really creepy man boy in the Edwardian gear, the Tudor gear or whatever, and he was very creepy. But yeah, some key moments in this, and then going to the merchant and upgrading your gun and getting new weapons, and gave you new styles to play. You had the sniper rifle that you could use to take enemies out with headshots and stuff from a distance. Fantastic game, really enjoyed it. So anyway, people, that's my top 10 out of the way. There will be more top 10s coming, and I might even plan to do a room tour quite soon. So we'll see how we go with that. Let me know if you'd like to see a room tour, and do comment on the GameCube collection, on my choice of the top 10s. Let me know your top 10s or choices. I mean, like I said at the start, I haven't played all the GameCube games, and it might very well be that some of these games get moved out and new ones come in, and that's just the nature of the beast, where you're a gamer collector revisiting these old games for the first time. So anyway, there you go, guys. Everyone take care, stay safe, and I'll see you again.